Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about how to use xBasic code to create your own smart controls in Alpha software. Now the smart controls have come out in Alpha 5, I believe starting back in version 10, maybe 9.5 or 9. And where they're kind of cool looking, they're difficult to use, and they're even more difficult if you want to customize them and make them work specifically the way you need them to work. So what I'm suggesting is that you can accomplish the same thing just using existing objects in Alpha software and xBasic code to modify those objects. As an example, what I'm going to show today is how to take and create a drop or an embedded calendar using a multi-state button. Here on our form, we have a frame. The text on the frame is dummy. We have a variable called vDate, which is a date variable. That's what we're using for the drop-down portion of our calendar. And then our dates on our buttons, or days of the month on our buttons, is a variable that's called vDay to represent the day of the month. Setting up this multi-state button, pretty straightforward. We just come in and set 35 values so that we have 5 weeks of 7 days for the week. That's it for that. Everything else is done in xBasic code. Now, when the form initiates, we set vDate to equal date, which would be the system date. Then we run a script called refreshCal or refreshCalendar, which resets all the buttons based on whatever the date is. When we change the value of vDate, so on change, again we run refreshCal. So let's take a look and see what this does, because this is actually the meat and potatoes of the entire thing. Alright, here's the code page. Now, to start with, we set the vDate and we refresh it so that whether we're initiating or we're making a change to the drop-down portion of the calendar, when we refresh it, it sets those values throughout the entire form and all the buttons that are on the multi-state button. Next, we set the frame text to equal cmonth, which is the month spelled out, to vDate. Then we set a variable called lbar. This is for the list position on our multi-state button. Lbar is going to equal the day of week for the month start of vDate minus 1. Now that's important because if you just use the day of week for the start date, the value would return the wrong answer when you try to determine what each text value should be on each button. It would be off by 1. So once we have that set, we take and state that if the value after the text is set is less than 1, then on the button that value needs to represent the previous month. We do that by using this string right here. And I'm going to show you how that looks. Basically, it is date last day of previous month for vDate plus the value of the choice list 1 value minus var lbar. That all sounds a little complicated, but in result what happens is, in the case of this example where it's May, the second button in the list, the value would be 0. So that's less than 1. So now we're saying that's the first value for the last day of the previous month. So the last day of the previous month minus 0 is the last day of the previous month, which is 30. See? Now we do that for each day for each button for the first 7 buttons in the list. Because as the years progress, your month could start on any one of those days. The middle weeks are pretty straightforward. As you can see, they're just listed out exactly as it states right there. Pretty straightforward and simple. Then we get to the last week. The last week we have to set another variable. This is xldom for the last day of month, and again it's set as a numeric value. So that's equal to day, month end for vDate. Once we set the value of the text for the button, then we say that if it is greater than XLDOM, then it's for the next month. Now what we have to do is determine how to take and get the value for each day following the end of the current month. We do that by saying that it is the value SuperControl multi-state button choice list dot text minus the var XLDOM. So if it's 31 or if it's 32 and there's 31 days in the current month, then 32 minus 31 equals 1. That becomes the first button. The next button would be 2, the next button would be 3, 4, 5, so forth and so on. Pretty straightforward. So let's take a look at it and see how it looks. So there's our deal. We're going to save and we're going to bring it up. So as you can see, the current date is the 15th. So let's change it and we'll go back to April. We'll select the 10th. See, our buttons have changed. Now April started on Sunday and it ended on Monday. So you have no overlap from the previous month, but you do have overlap for the next month, and those buttons line up sequentially correct. And of course, you could set code that on the change of the multi-state buttons, different things would run, which could be a list of appointments or calendar events or anything that you wanted to do. Employee records, set report dates and previews, anything. So there you have it. It's pretty simple. This is a real easy way to take and use a xBasic code to create your own SuperControl. I hope you found this demo helpful and useful, and you have a great day. Thank you very much.